Imagine for a moment that you take a picture of yourself, maybe it's on social media, maybe it's just a selfie you left in your phone, and somewhere out there, without your knowledge, that very same picture is being used against you, not to celebrate you, not to admire you, but to harm you, to manipulate your energy, your reputation, even your destiny. Now stop and ask yourself, how would you even know? And more importantly, what would you do to protect yourself? See, this is the part no one wants to believe. We live in a time where a single image carries power. A photo is not just a snapshot, it's an imprint of your presence, your essence, your story frozen in time. And when it falls into the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. That's why the first thing you need to understand is awareness. If people suddenly start treating you differently, if doors that used to open for you begin closing, if your energy feels drained for no logical reason, don't dismiss it. These are signals that something unseen may be at play. The second thing is observation. If someone keeps asking for your photo without reason, if they're oddly fixated on capturing your image, if they insist on keeping copies of you, it's not flattery, it's control. Pay attention. People with wrong intentions never come at you directly. They hide behind charm, behind excuses, behind innocent requests. The way you know is by their persistence and their patterns. Now, protection. The moment you sense that your image is being used against you, you stop being passive. You stop saying, it's just a photo. No, it's not just a photo. It's your energy, you guard it. Limit what you share online. Keep sacred the parts of yourself that don't need to be displayed to the world. And if you know or even feel that someone already has used your photo for harm, you confront it with strength. Delete access, block them, distance yourself. And most of all, counter it with action words of prayer, affirmations, and the certainty that no image, no trick, no scheme can define you more than your own belief in yourself. You ever notice how sometimes life feels like it just flips on you overnight? One moment things are flowing, you're moving forward, people are supporting you, opportunities are opening. Then suddenly, without any clear reason, everything feels heavy. Doors that used to open start shutting. People who were once kind start acting distant. You feel drained, unfocused, almost like something invisible is pressing down on you. And here's the part most people miss when that kind of shift happens out of nowhere. It's not always just bad luck. Sometimes it's because someone has taken something from you, like your photo, and used it with the intention to twist your energy. You can't see it, but you can feel it. I've worked in environments where you had to pay attention to patterns. You don't dismiss sudden changes, you investigate them. And in your own life, when things change without explanation, you need to stop and ask yourself, what happened recently? Who did I share with? Who did I let in? Because photos carry more than just pixels, they carry a piece of you. And when they're in the wrong hands, they can be manipulated. That unexplained heaviness, that sudden streak of bad breaks, that's often the first red flag. Too many people ignore it. They call it coincidence, they brush it off, but the strongest people are the ones who pay attention, who stop saying, oh, it's nothing, and instead start saying, no, this isn't normal, something shifted, and I need to protect myself. And then there's the obsession, those people who seem to always want your picture. They don't just take one and move on. They keep asking, they keep finding reasons, they keep saying things like, oh, send me another one, or let me just snap a quick photo of you. And maybe at first it feels harmless, maybe even flattering, but when someone is fixated on having pieces of you, that's not admiration, that's control. You've got to understand that normal, healthy people don't need constant images of you to feel connected. When it crosses the line into insistence, when it starts to feel like they want ownership over your likeness, that's when you stop ignoring the red flags. I've seen this in so many different forms. Someone smiling on the outside, while quietly collecting leverage on the inside. It's subtle, but it's intentional. They may disguise it as interest, as love, as friendship, but what they're really doing is gathering power over you. And that's where you have to train yourself to question, why do they need it? Why do they keep asking? And what do they do with it once they have it? Because the truth is, once your photo leaves your hands, you lose control over how it's used. If you don't ask those questions, you hand over permission without even realizing it. The people who protect their lives, their energy, their destiny are the ones who set boundaries and don't apologize for them. They know when innocent attention starts looking like obsession, and they step back before it turns into harm. And here's another piece. Most people overlook behavior never lies. Watch closely how someone acts once they have your photo. People reveal themselves in the smallest, most subtle ways. You think it's random, but it's not. If you give someone access to your image and suddenly their behavior shifts, if they start avoiding direct eye contact, if they look uneasy when you walk in the room, if they go quiet or overly protective of their phone or their belongings around you, that's not coincidence. That's guilt. That's secrecy. It's the body giving away what the mouth refuses to admit. When someone has nothing to hide, they move freely around you. They don't flinch. They don't fidget. They don't guard themselves like a thief clutching stolen goods. But when they've crossed a line, when they've used your photo in a way they shouldn't, you'll see it. Maybe they won't say it outright, but they'll avoid the conversation. They'll change the subject. They'll suddenly become defensive if you even joke about pictures or privacy. And you need to understand that is your evidence. That is your intuition signaling you through their behavior. I remember working in high-stakes environments where we studied human behavior down to the smallest twitch. Do you know why? Because liars, manipulators, people with hidden agendas, they always think they're smarter than you. They think they can mask their motives behind a smile or charm, but the body doesn't cooperate. You ask them a question, their eyes dart. You bring up photos, and suddenly their breathing changes. They look away or they laugh nervously. People don't realize how much their own body betrays them. And if you learn to observe, if you train yourself to notice the shifts, you'll see the truth written on them even when their lips say otherwise. Now, think about the people in your life, the ones who have access to your pictures, who maybe asked for them in ways that didn't feel natural. How do they act now? Do they treat you the same, or did something change? Do they look at you with the same openness, or is there now a strange distance, a guardedness that wasn't there before? Pay attention to that, because sometimes your safety depends on catching what's unsaid. And I want you to understand this clearly. Those shifts in behavior are not random mood swings. They're signals. If someone has used your photo with wrong intent, whether spiritually, emotionally, or to tarnish your image, they carry that weight and it leaks out in how they behave. They can't help it. That's why you don't dismiss odd behavior as, oh, they're just acting weird. No. You analyze it. You ask yourself, what changed? Why now? What do they know or what do they hold that I don't? I've seen women ignore this instinct and the price they paid was too high. They dismissed their gut feeling when someone became strangely secretive after asking for a picture. They told themselves, maybe I'm just overthinking. And later, they discovered those photos being misused, whether in gossip, manipulation, or even darker practices meant to weaken them. If they had trusted that small discomfort in the beginning, they could have protected themselves. That's why I'm telling you this. Your instincts are not paranoia, they're protection. So let me ask you directly, who around you is acting strange with your image, who hides their phone when you walk in, who suddenly avoids your eyes, who shifts the conversation whenever the subject of photos comes up, because those aren't coincidences, those are confessions, silent confessions, and your job is not to dismiss them, but to decode them. See, people always reveal themselves, always. It might not be in words, but it's in the way they act, in the way they carry themselves after they've crossed a line. When someone has nothing to hide, they're consistent. But when they're holding something against you, the cracks show. The secrecy becomes obvious. The guilt eats through their composure. And if you're sharp, if you're paying attention, you'll catch it. That's why I say become an observer. Don't just listen to what people tell you. Study what they do when they think you're not looking. Study how their energy shifts when they're around you. Study how their body reacts when your name, your photo, your privacy comes up. That's where the truth lies, and once you see it, once you know, you can act, you can protect yourself. You can reclaim your power before it's too late. Because at the end of the day, people can try to use your image to harm you, but they can't hide the weight of their own actions. And the sharpest weapon, you have the one that will always keep you safe, is your ability to notice, to trust, and to respond without hesitation when the truth reveals itself. And then there's something else, something most people never stop to examine because they dismiss it as stress or just a bad day. It's what happens inside of you after you've shared your photo. Pay attention to how you feel, not hours later, but immediately after, because your body is the first alarm system you'll ever have. If you notice that the moment you post, send, or give away a picture of yourself, you suddenly feel uneasy, restless, or strangely drained, don't ignore that. That is not random. That is not your imagination. That is your energy telling you it's being pulled, being tampered with, being siphoned off. I want you to think back to a time when you shared a photo, maybe with someone you weren't fully comfortable with. Did you feel peace afterward, or did you feel like something in you shifted? That pit in your stomach, that sudden anxiety that comes out of nowhere, that fatigue that weighs on you, it's not coincidence. I've trained in environments where survival depended on recognizing subtle shifts in your body, because the body doesn't lie. If you feel weaker after sharing your photo, if your mood plummets, if your energy suddenly disappears, that is your system screaming, something's wrong, protect yourself. And here's what you have to understand. Your image isn't just pixels, it carries a piece of your essence. That's why when it's used wrongly, you feel it, just like you can feel when someone stares at you too long, even from behind. Your spirit reacts when your image is manipulated with bad intent. Too many people brush that off. They take another coffee, blame it on lack of sleep, and keep moving. But the strong ones, the aware ones, stop and ask, why do I feel this way? What just happened? Who did I hand my likeness to? I've spoken to people who swore they were fine until the moment they posted a new picture online. Within hours, they felt depleted, like someone had stolen the life out of them. And maybe they didn't see the harm directly, but their body knew, because your body is wired to detect what your eyes can't see. It's not paranoia, it's instinct, and if you ignore it, you make yourself vulnerable. So here's what you need to do. Every time you share your photo, check yourself afterward. Do you feel light or heavy? Do you feel empowered or weakened? Do you feel grounded or unsettled? If the answer leans toward the negative, don't rationalize it. Recognize it. That's your warning sign. That's your proof that the person who now has your photo isn't holding it with good intentions. And let me tell you, the smartest people I've ever met, the ones who thrive in dangerous, unpredictable environments, they all have one thing in common. They listen to their bodies. They don't ignore that tightness in the chest, that uneasy energy, that sudden exhaustion. They treat it as data, as evidence. Because it is, and if you want to protect yourself in a world where people can use something as simple as your image against you, then you have to sharpen that same skill. Listen to your body, trust it, and act before the damage takes root. And here's where it gets even more unsettling, when the impact of your photo doesn't just touch you, but begins to ripple through the people around you. You start noticing that relationships shift in ways you can't quite explain. Friends who were warm suddenly turn cold. People who once admired you now keep their distance. Conversations that used to flow with ease now feel tense, awkward, guarded. And the most confusing part, you didn't do anything different. You didn't change who you are, but the way they see you, the way they respond to you, suddenly changes. That's when you have to consider that maybe someone is using your image to poison the perception of others. Because your photo isn't just a record of your face, it's a symbol of your presence. And when it's manipulated, whether through gossip, malice, or even darker practices, it can shift the way people feel about you without them even knowing why. They don't know they're being influenced. They just know that suddenly, when they think of you, it's not positive anymore. The energy has been tampered with. Think about it. How many times have you wondered, why is this person treating me differently all of a sudden? You replay your last conversation. You try to find the offense, but there isn't one. That's because it didn't start with you. It started with how your image was used against you. Someone planted doubt. Someone twisted perception. And now the relationships you value most feel unstable. I've seen this play out again and again. People losing trust in one another not because of words spoken to their face, but because of what's being done behind their back. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's a subtle shift, a tone in someone's voice, a hesitation where there used to be closeness. Other times, it's more direct. Opportunities get pulled away, collaborations vanish, doors that were once wide open slam shut. And because you can't see the hand pulling the strings, you blame yourself. You think you did something wrong. But the truth is, someone else is pulling energy away from you using the most accessible tool they had, your photo. And this is where your strength has to kick in. Instead of drowning in confusion, instead of internalizing the blame, you have to recognize the pattern for what it is. If you know in your gut you didn't change, but suddenly everyone else's reaction to you did, then stop asking, what did I do wrong? And start asking, who has access to me? Who has my photo? Who benefits from weakening my presence in the eyes of others? That's how you reclaim power, from shifting the question away from self, blame, and into awareness, because here's the truth. Real connection doesn't just break overnight. Trust doesn't just dissolve in a moment. Something triggers it. And if that trigger wasn't you, then you need to acknowledge that your image may be in the wrong hands. Once you see it that way, once you accept that this isn't about what you did, but about how someone tried to use what they took from you, you stop spiraling and you start strategizing. You stop weakening yourself and instead start strengthening your boundaries. And if you're sharp, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that even the people being influenced, they're not fully themselves when they act distant. They carry hesitation, confusion, conflict. That's your proof. And that's where you step in with clarity, with presence, with strength. You don't let someone else's misuse of your photo dictate the story of your relationships. You write that story yourself, through truth, through confidence, through standing firm in who you are. And sometimes the effect doesn't just show up in your relationships. It invades the most private part of your life, your sleep. You start having strange dreams, nightmares that come out of nowhere. You wake up restless, your heart racing, like you've been running all night without moving an inch. Maybe you even feel a weight pressing down on you in the middle of the night, or a sense that someone is watching you even though you're alone. That is not just random fear. That is your subconscious and your spirit responding to the fact that your image is being tampered with. When someone uses your photo with the intention to harm, it's not just a physical act, it's an energetic one. And energy has a way of bleeding into your rest, your peace, your subconscious mind. That's why so many people report feeling haunted after realizing their picture had been misused. They weren't crazy. They weren't imagining it. Their body and spirit were telling them something wasn't right. I've spoken with people who woke up every night at the same time, restless, unable to shake a sense of dread, only to later discover that someone close to them had been holding onto their photo, speaking negativity over it, trying to bind them in fear, and the fear manifested exactly where they were most vulnerable, in their sleep. Because sleep is when your defenses are down. It's when your conscious mind isn't standing guard. So if you notice patterns of nightmares, if you feel drained every morning, no matter how much you rest, if you sense a darkness that clings to you after you wake up, that is not just bad sleep. That is a signal that someone is using your likeness against you, and this is where awareness matters most. Don't ignore those signs. Don't brush them off as just dreams. Nightmares are data. They are your inner alarm system. If your nights are disturbed after you've shared a photo, pay attention. That is not random. That is your body, your spirit, your subconscious all pointing to the same truth. Something's off, and you need to guard yourself. I know people who dismissed those dreams until their lives began unraveling in the daylight. They thought it was just stress. They thought it was just their imagination. But those restless nights were the first warning signs that harm had already been set in motion. The strongest people, the ones who protect themselves before the damage grows, are the ones who don't wait. They see the nightmares as a message, they listen, and they take back control. So if your sleep is unsettled, if you're waking up with fear that doesn't make sense, stop telling yourself it's nothing. It's not nothing, it's evidence, and the moment you honor it as evidence, you empower yourself to fight back, to cut off whoever is using your photo, and to reclaim the peace that belongs to you. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Your gut knows before your mind can explain it. That feeling in your stomach, that quiet whisper that says, something's not right, it's not weakness, it's intelligence. It's your internal radar picking up what your eyes and ears can't yet see. And when it comes to your photo, when it comes to the energy people attached to it, that instinct becomes your greatest line of defense. I've seen people try to reason their way out of their own intuition. They'll say, maybe I'm just being paranoid, maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm imagining things. But let me ask you, how many times in your life did you ignore your gut, only to find out later you were right all along? That uneasy feeling about a person, that discomfort when handing something over, that voice that told you to hesitate every time you silenced it, you paid the price. And when it comes to your photo, ignoring it can be even more costly. Think about it. Maybe you shared your picture with someone and immediately afterward, something inside you tightened. You couldn't explain why. On the surface, everything looked fine. They smiled, they thanked you, they seemed harmless. But your gut wouldn't let it go. That is not paranoia. That is awareness. It's your spirit recognizing what your mind hasn't yet processed, that person's intentions aren't clean. And if you don't listen, if you brush it off as nerves, you hand them more power than they already have. I've worked in environments where hesitation could cost lives. And do you know what separated those who survived from those who didn't? It wasn't who had the most knowledge, it was who trusted their instinct fastest. The body catches signals before logic catches up. If a room felt wrong, if a person's energy felt off, you moved. You didn't wait for proof, you acted on instinct. And that's exactly what you need to do when your intuition tells you someone isn't holding your photo with good intentions. Don't wait until damage shows up in your life. Don't wait until relationships shift, until your sleep is disrupted, until your energy is drained. The moment you feel it, the moment your gut says stop, you act, you block, you distance, you cut off access. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting yourself. You don't need proof to justify your instinct. You are the proof. The way you feel is evidence enough. Strong people are not the ones who never feel fear. Strong people are the ones who respect their intuition, who use it as armor instead of dismissing it as weakness. That's what keeps them safe. That's what keeps them in control. And if you want to make sure no one uses your photo against you, you've got to sharpen that same inner compass, listen to it, and trust it without hesitation. Because the second you doubt it, the second you tell yourself, it's probably nothing, you've already given away power that belonged to you. And then there's the most obvious yet most dangerous sign of all. When your photo shows up in places you never put it. You're scrolling online and suddenly you see your own face on an account you don't recognize. Or someone tells you they saw your picture somewhere you never shared it. Maybe it's in a group you're not a part of. Maybe it's attached to words you never said. Maybe it's circulating in whispers you can't control. That is not an accident. That is someone taking ownership of something that belongs only to you. And here's where you have to stop being passive. Too many people shrug this off. They think, oh, maybe someone just liked it and reposted it. Maybe it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. Because the second your image exists outside your control, it's open to be twisted, misused, reshaped into something that was never yours. And once that happens, the damage isn't just to your reputation, it's to your energy, to the way people perceive you, to the way you begin to perceive yourself. I've seen people's confidence crumble because of this. They scroll and find their own face where it doesn't belong, and suddenly they feel exposed, violated, powerless. And if they don't confront it, if they don't take action, that sense of powerlessness grows. That's exactly what the people misusing your image want. To weaken you from the inside out, to make you doubt your worth, to make you feel like you've lost control over yourself. But let me be clear, you are never powerless. The moment you see your photo somewhere it shouldn't be, that is your signal to step into strength. You investigate, you remove, you report, you block, you cut off. You don't sit quietly and let someone steal your presence. You take it back because your image is not just a picture, it's your identity, and no one has the right to weaponize it without your permission. And if it's not online but in whispers, if you find out people are passing around your picture, holding onto it, showing it without reason, that's just as dangerous. Ask yourself why. Why do they need to keep it? Why do they need to spread it? People with good intentions don't hoard your image. They don't display it in secret. They don't share it behind your back. When that happens, it's because they're trying to shift control, to use your likeness for their own agenda. And that's when you step in and reclaim authority. You don't need to scream or beg for it. You simply take action. You confront what needs to be confronted, and you put up boundaries that cannot be crossed again. Because once your photo leaves your hands, you can't always control where it goes, but you can always control how much power you allow it to have over you. And when you act with strength, when you refuse to let someone else decide the meaning of your image, you strip away the very thing they wanted most, control over your story. And this is where protection becomes non-negotiable. Too many people live wide open, putting every detail of their lives online, posting every photo, every moment, every angle without thinking twice about who's watching. They forget that not everyone who sees their image is cheering for them. Some are studying them, some are collecting pieces. Some are waiting for the right moment to use what they've been given. And if you don't put boundaries around your image, you're the one handing them the weapon. You've got to start treating your photo the way you treat your keys, your passport, your most personal belongings. Because that's exactly what it is, a form of access, and access, once given, is hard to take back. If you wouldn't leave your front door unlocked, why leave your image lying around for anyone to pick up? Boundaries don't make you paranoid, they make you powerful. They remind people that access to you is earned, not owed. So what does that look like? It means you stop posting every picture in real time, giving strangers a live broadcast of your life. It means you stop sending selfies to anyone who asks, just to be nice or avoid awkwardness. It means you think before you share who's seeing this. Why do they want it? What could they do with it? If the answer makes you even slightly uncomfortable, you don't share it. You don't apologize for protecting yourself. Strong people aren't the ones who let the whole world see every corner of their lives. Strong people are the ones who know what to keep sacred, who know that mystery is a form of strength. Not everything about you belongs on display. Not every smile, not every moment, not every detail has to be captured and handed over. When you reduce exposure, you reduce risk. When you limit what you give away, you limit what others can weaponize. And don't let anyone guilt you for putting those boundaries in place. The people who respect you will respect your privacy. The ones who get upset, the ones who push back, those are the very people you should be careful of. Because genuine people don't need constant proof of you. They value your presence, not your picture. The ones who demand access without reason are the ones who will use it against you. So take back control. Make your privacy a priority, not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting. Not because you're scared, but because you're smart. Boundaries are not walls that lock you in. They are shields that keep harm out. And when you learn to protect your image the same way you protect your peace, you make it nearly impossible for anyone to use your photo as a weapon against you. And if you ever sense, even for a second, that your photo has already been used against you, this is where you stop hesitating and start reclaiming control. Because the worst thing you can do is sit back, feel helpless, and wait for the damage to grow. You don't wait, you act. You cut off access. You block the person. You remove them from your space, your contacts, your circle. You do whatever it takes to shut down their entry point. Because when someone shows you they can't be trusted with your image, you don't give them another chance to prove it. You end it right there. And here's what people forget. A photo only has as much power as the energy you give it. If you believe it defines you, it will control you. If you believe it can harm you, it will weaken you. But if you stand strong, if you reinforce yourself daily with words of truth, with affirmations, with prayer, with unshakable self-belief, then no photo, no scheme, no hidden agenda can override the power of your own will. Because your spirit is stronger than any image, your truth is bigger than any manipulation. This isn't about pretending harm doesn't exist. It's about facing it head on and stripping it of its power. You fight back by building yourself up. You remind yourself every day, no one controls my story but me. No one holds my power but me. No one defines me by a picture. I define myself. You choose to speak strength over yourself so that no matter what anyone tries to do with your likeness, It bounces back to them empty-handed. And make no mistake when you step into that mindset, when you carry yourself with that conviction, people feel it. They know they can't break you, they know they can't touch you, and the very ones who thought they could use your image to weaken you end up exposing their own weakness. Because nothing they do works against someone who refuses to give away their power. So you take back control not just by blocking, not just by deleting, but by standing so firm in who you are that no photo, no rumor, no twisted version of your image can touch the real you. That's how you win. That's how you stay untouchable, because your photo may be in someone else's hands, but your strength, your energy, your destiny, they are always in yours. And here's the truth. You don't have to live in fear of someone holding your photo, your likeness, your image. What you need to do is live with awareness, with strength, with boundaries so clear that no one dares cross them. You've learned how to recognize the signs, how to protect yourself, how to cut off access, and most importantly, how to reclaim your power when someone tries to use what belongs to you. Because at the end of the day, your photo is not you, your image is not your essence. What you carry inside your confidence, your faith, your resilience, that's untouchable. When you stop giving away your power, when you stop living wide open for everyone to take, you make yourself unbreakable. And the people who thought they could use your image against you, they lose because they never understood the truth. Pictures fade, manipulation fails, but strength endures. And once you know how to guard yourself, nothing, absolutely nothing, can take you down. You walk out stronger, smarter, and untouchable. That's how you win